Hi there, and welcome to another Blu-ray update video. Today we are exclusively going to be looking at Arrow video releases because I've picked up quite a few. And I'm also wearing a brand new Fright Drags shirt, which I picked up quite literally moments ago. The whole poster is just amazing. I adore this shirt. It's really cool. And I actually also have another Halloween shirt on the way from the same company because they've done some beautiful ones just recently. Go to frightdrags.com and check out their Halloween shirts if you haven't already. They're really cool. Alright, so let's get to the movies, shall we? First up, we have Deadly Blessing. This is a very cool, groovy Wes Craven movie from the 1980s. Just a really strange and cheesy and wonderful Wes Craven movie, which is about sort of the horrors of organized religion. It's about three women who come to this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, living on this farm, and they are surrounded by these Hittites, which are kind of like Amish people, but super duper Amish, so to speak, super religious. And the leader of them is Ernest Borgnine, and you've also got Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes running around calling people incubus, which is just so funny. You've got spiders and snakes and all kinds of crazy things going on in this movie. Plus it's got kind of a Friday the 13th vibe going on at the same time. And you've got a young, you can't recognize her here, but this scene is actually with a young Sharon Stone, who's absolutely beautiful in this movie, and it's just amazing. It's got this total Omen ripoff score going on. There's just a lot of crazy, weird, outlandish things going on in Deadly Blessing, and I think it's really cool. So this is the Arrow video release. I opted for the original poster art. I think it's really nice. It actually cuts off a little bit. They haven't shown the entire poster because I think that cleavage was a little bit deeper in the real poster, but anyway. It's got just a number of new special features. I'm not gonna name all of these because it'll just take me forever. But it's a very nice version. Classic artwork, new artwork. As always, they know how to make a really cool special edition of a great horror movie. So cheesy fun, just a real sort of gem of 80s horror. Completely outlandish, and this movie doesn't make sense. There are basically two endings to the movie after one another, and neither one makes a lot of sense at all. They're both like, what just happened? So Deadly Blessing, really cool. I really love a movie like this. Cheesy, strange, outlandish, unpredictable, and Wes Craven in his prime. And then we have another crazy, outlandish 80s horror movie, and that is Madman. Very cool. This is a slasher movie from 1981, I think. And this and The Burning, which I'll be talking about in just a moment, were both inspired by the same campfire legend, which is the legend of Cropsey, actually. There was this campfire legend apparently in the United States about this crazed caretaker who was in the woods, and if you weren't nice, he'd come and get you, or something to that effect. And both of these movies sort of took that legend and sort of spun it in two different directions, so to speak. Madman is just about this crazy legend of Madman Mars, this killer in the woods. Don't say his name, as you know, the tagline reads, or he'll come get you and kill you with an axe, among other things. Basically the legend of someone who was, I think he was hung from a tree, killed with an axe, and now he's this gruesome, horrible, undead monster, basically. So very simple, fun, crazed slasher movie. Just fun to watch. Not like a great movie in any regard, but I have this theory that horror movies aren't really good, they're just fun. I mean, there are good horror movies, obviously, but most of them we watch because they're not good, if that makes any sense. And Madman definitely falls into that category. I have seen all the special features on this one. They were very interesting. They were like, it's kind of like they just grabbed a camera and they were just interviewing people at random at these conventions, and it didn't really hold very high quality. It felt very sort of amateurish, like almost like they'd filmed it themselves or something. I don't know, just kind of weird. to me, because Arrow Video usually have these really high quality interviews with really good lighting and microphones, and so I guess most of these are sort of archival, or they are, I don't know, early, or maybe they produced them themselves. They felt very low budget, so to speak, but still interesting stuff. This is the newly commissioned artwork, which I prefer. I think this is cool, but you can also flip this around and get the original artwork, which is just Madman Mars standing in a doorway, I think. But either way, just a fun slasher movie. Not great by any means, just one of those funny, bloody affairs. I forgot to mention this also stars Galen Ross from Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, but she appeared under the pseudonym Alex Dubin because I guess she didn't want to be typecast or too associated with this movie or with horror in general, so that's pretty interesting. Thank you, Arrow Video, for making these wonderful releases. I'm happy you put out Madman, because now I can watch this movie all over again and get a kick out of it. So that's Madman, a really cool, fun slasher movie. Next up is another gem, which is Big Trouble in Little China. This is a John Carpenter movie, of course, starring the one, the only Kurt Russell as Jack Burton. This all-American blowhard who thinks he's really hot shit. He's got a big mouth, but he's really not the cool action hero he thinks he is. In fact, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell said that the cool thing about this movie was the fact that, or the funny thing about this movie was that they were taking the hero of this movie and the sidekick, and they were sort of turning them around. So the hero is basically the sidekick, and the sidekick is basically the hero. This movie is also a kung fu movie. It's essentially John Carpenter's own American kung fu movie, which is very cool. It's called Big Trouble in Little China, and he gets involved with this ancient Asian prophecy in the bowels of Chinatown, basically. And there's magic going on, magic and demons and monsters and kung fu shit, and it's crazy. It's crazy fun. It's awesome, and it's just crazy, wild fun. And Kurt Russell is in his prime here. Also stars Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City, and I also recognize this poster artwork here, of course, because it was made by Drew Struzan. He said this was actually one of his least favorite posters to make. It's actually his body on the cover there. He was in good shape, and but he said it was too busy for his liking, too much going on the poster, but I think it's awesome. I mean, it just captures that movie so well. And some of the highlights of this Arrow Video edition are the interviews with Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, of course, and the audio commentary, which is very, very funny and insightful. Among other things, they said that the inspiration for Jack Burton was Kurt Russell thought of him as John Wayne, but not John Wayne when he's doing good. John Wayne when he's flubbing a take, like when he can't get up on the horse, when he can't fire the gun properly, when he says his lines wrong. All of those things were his inspiration. It's basically like the director kept the bad takes of John Wayne. And I thought that was really funny and interesting. A very cool way of looking at it. But Big Trouble in Little China is a funny, action-packed movie that defies expectations, because when this movie was new, you basically had, Rambo and Indiana Jones and heroes like that, and Jack Burton is definitely not that type of hero. So it's very different, just a funny, outlandish, silly, cool action movie. So if you haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China, please go ahead and check it out as soon as possible. And next up we have an Italian movie from Mario Bava. It's Blood and Black Lace, and this is a Steelbook edition, limited to 4,000 copies, I think it was. Well, if I'm wrong, I'll correct that with an annotation. But anyway, this is a lovely Steelbook edition. I love the way they've done the title of the movie here. It's actually on the cover there. I don't know if you can pick that up with the camera, but so the Steelbook itself is matte, but the title is embossed, which is just a nice, lovely little detail that they've added there, I think. And then you've got this beautiful artwork running throughout, all the way through. Anyway, Blood and Black Lace is a 60s movie. It is an early inspiration. It actually sort of set a lot of the template for what would become the Giallo movie, which is an Italian thriller mystery movie. Usually about a killer in a black robe with black gloves, stalking beautiful women and killing them in creative, inventive ways. These films usually sort of blend the sleazy, slasher shock movie with, well, slashers weren't even a thing back then, but like the killer shock movie with more elaborate murder mysteries, so to speak. And Blood and Black Lace was, along with his previous movie, The Girl Who Knew Too Much. The Girl Who Knew Too Much was about a girl who witnesses a murder. It was a black and white movie, and that sort of set the template for what a giallo movie was about, what the plot was about, how the structure worked. This one is more visual. This is more about setting the visual style in place. It has those amazing bright colored lights, sort of pastel colors, ridiculously bright primary colors all over the place. It's got the killer with the gloves and the hat stalking beautiful women. It's got the plot twist at the end where it's kind of a whodunit, and it's revealed who's the killer and why, and there's this elaborate murder mystery going on. And I really enjoy this movie. This was a blind buy for me, but I really quite enjoyed especially the tone of the movie and the style of the movie is very, very atmospheric and cool, and you can really see how this inspired movies that, came later. They said in the interviews, and there's a lot of good special features on this, really, really good special features. They mentioned that Mario Bava was really kind of a playful, childish director almost. He didn't make these choices because he was doing these artistic things. He was just having fun, basically. He was just, being outlandish and silly and seeing what would work. So Blood and Black Lace, a beautiful special edition, a lot of very cool, insightful special features about Mario Bava, about his filmmaking. Really quite an amazing film, and a must-have if you like Italian giallo films or murder mysteries, or you're interested in the history of horror or thrillers or anything of the sort. So kudos, Arrow Video. Very cool movie. This was a blind buy, but I don't regret it in the least. A very good movie. And last but not least, this was delayed, but it's finally here, is the Steelbook edition of The Burning. So this is an awesome slasher movie. I love this movie, and I think you'll find that this is commonly held as one of the best slasher movies ever made. If you Google like top 10 slasher movies, I think you'll find this on almost all top 10 lists, because it's just awesome. There are no other words for it. It's about Cropsey, whom you see on the cover here. Very cool. There's just a little river of blood from his garden shears. He's a very ugly, unpopular caretaker at a summer camp, and I think it's sort of implied that he's done something horrible. He's done something sexual to someone at the camp or something like that. You're not quite clear what's going on, but the kids decide to get him back and to pull a prank on him, and they put this skull in his bunk with candles in it, and before you know it, he catches on fire, and he's running out of the bunk, and he ends up, falling into the lake. But he ends up in the burn ward, where he houses this amazing hatred for teenagers and for Camp Blackfoot, where he was savagely burned, and he returns to wreak bloody havoc and revenge. And there's several reasons why this movie is so well liked, I think. It was an early slasher movie from the early years of the slasher boom, 1981. It combined elements of Friday the 13th, the campground and the revenge and all that stuff, but it also had a European influence. The director is British, I think, Tony Milam. Hope I'm saying his name correctly. So there's a definite sort of vibe that combines the best of the American sensibilities with the British sensibilities, and you have this early sequence where he strangles a woman that actually feels more like I mentioned, an Italian giallo movie, which is very cool. The score is fantastic, great main theme for this movie. It's a very stylish, moody slasher movie, and it's very atmospheric, and it takes its time actually, and the movie actually builds to one infamous and very, very gruesome sequence. Special effects by Tom Savini, who also did Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which is the raft sequence where Cropsey basically, spoiler, basically attacks a whole raft of kids and dispatches them all at once. It's crazy, it's really cool, and the special effects are just, really cool, groundbreaking for the time. And it's just a gruesome, cool, stylish atmospheric horror movie. I just love the title, The Burning, the way Cropsey looks with his shears and all that stuff. So it's got this kind of greatest hits quality. It definitely feels like a slasher movie, but it's also very different in a lot of ways. So it kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it really does everything so perfectly well. This is what you want out of a slasher movie. They take it seriously, and it's atmospheric and well made, and it draws influence from previous movies, but you can also see a lot of Friday the 13th in it, Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 in particular. And it's basically just a really cool, fun slasher movie. And if you like slasher movies, especially, you know, the sort of early days of the slasher genre, which is, you know, hailed as the best time between 78 to 84, basically, then this is a movie that you have to see. And Arrow Video have, you know, outdone themselves with this beautiful steelbook. It's really nice. I love the artwork here. I think it's really cool. It's a little bit orange looking. That's a nitpick for me. I wish this were more reddish, but that's just a tiny little nitpick. Otherwise, it's so cool. I love this artwork. I mean, look at this. I haven't started digging into the special features yet, but I will very shortly. And just happy to have this on high definition at last, because I've had the old Region 1 DVD for a number of years now, and I can't even play that one. So, The Burning, a very nice must-have slasher movie for any horror fan, and a really nice limited edition steelbook. That concludes my video from Arrow Video. So we had The Burning, this steelbook edition. Blood and Black Lace from Mario Bava, also a lovely steelbook. I love the way they've done this. Something a bit funnier, Big Trouble in Little China by John Carpenter, starring the one and only Kurt Russell. We had Madman, of course, another slasher movie from Arrow Video. Nothing too remarkable, but I just like these crazy slasher movies. And finally, we have a very strange, outlandish, religious horror movie, which is Deadly Blessing from Wes Craven. Probably not a Wes Craven movie that a lot of people talk about, but I think it's one you should see. It has a lot of funny, strange, pure 80s things going on, so it's just a very cool, interesting horror movie, to say the least, and I think people would really like it. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one.